Hello and welcome to this episode of Around West Warwick High. My name is Brian Lynch and I am currently a junior attending West Warwick High School. During this podcast, I will interview most of the staff members of the school and learn about their jobs and a little about their life outside of school. Today my guest is Mr. Richard Marchetti, and he is a music teacher who teaches all grades. So how are you today?
I'm doing well, Brian. How are you?
I'm good.
Thanks for having me.
Along with being a music teacher, you're the head of music for the whole district. So what led you to that position?
So the person who was the district coordinator before me was retiring in 2009, and I had a number of the members of the department come up to me and say, we'd really like you to put your name in for it, specifically because I had taught at the elementary school and I also taught at the high school. So prior to teaching here, I was at Horgan. So I had some pretty good knowledge about what happens at that level and at the high school level as well. And I had a lot of support in the middle school. So it kind of fell into my lap, really. I wasn't looking for it at the time. But when my department had come to me and said, hey, we want you to do this, I put my name in and won.
Cool. What's something you would tell your 18-year-old self with all the information that you know now?
To not rush to do everything. So I find that I rush everything. I wish that I had slowed down, and I wish I had traveled the world. I wish I had experienced, more things before I settled into a job. I just think that, I see some friends of mine who are my age and have traveled the world and done more than I have, and have a little, FOMO from that, and I wish that I could have slowed down and not rush to get into the career so fast. I'm really happy that I got in when I got in, but I wish I had taken some time for myself to kind of discover who I was.
Are there any resources that have helped you along your journey?
Yeah, totally. Other music teachers have helped me a lot. Friends and family have always supported me, but I think as far as resources, the people that I work with every day are just the best of the best. I do a lot of freelance musician stuff, so I have a lot of resources out in the field, whether it be with people at Trinity Rep or at Theater by the Sea or in any of the professional theater settings. So that has kind of helped a lot as well. But mostly I think the teachers that I work with every day, not only in my department but in this entire building, everyone's a valuable resource.
So you're also one of the two directors for the school's music goals and cabaret. So what's the biggest stress about that?
The biggest stress is the things that are not in our control, meaning sometimes the scheduling, sometimes the money, sometimes waiting for the set to be built or painted, or for things that Mrs. Spellman and myself don't really have control of. I can't get up and build a set myself, and I know that, and yeah, that's a weakness of mine. But I think we've developed a great team that has really supported us all along the way. But it is definitely stressful when things are not in our control, because we're kind of at the mercy of others, and we appreciate everyone who comes out and helps, but sometimes it's it's definitely a little stressful at times.
Is there any book that you would suggest to a student?
I'm not much of a reader. And funny story, I have a hard time reading now, because when I was in high school, I took all honors English classes, and I was constantly handed a book to read, and I never was able to pick the book that I wanted to pick, or select something that interests me. It was just here's what the whole class is reading. There'll be a quiz at the end or whatever. And that literally was 4 years continuous, summer, included. So I'm not much of a reader now. Some of my favorite books, I really liked the book Night by, I think it's Eli Wiesel or Wiesel.
I think it's Eli Whitney. Or no, it might be Wiesel.
Yeah.
We were talking about that in history a few days ago.
That was a book that I couldn't put down. I also really liked, there was a book called The Giver. That was one of my summer readings. That was really, really good. But as far as like reading in my spare time, I don't do that now, unfortunately, because I feel like I have like PTSD from reading as a child, like a high school student. So
Are you married?
I am not married.
Do you have any siblings?
I do. I have one sister, Caitlin. She's 3 years younger than me. She works in finance.
What's your hometown?
So I live in North Providence now, but I grew up in Johnston. I went to Johnston High School and all the schools in Johnston. And my parents divorced when I was like 25. So that was when the house sold, and that was when I moved. I moved to North Providence at that point. So I own my own condo.
What's something that you have failed at?
So I knew you were going to ask this, and I thought about it all day. I think that it's not a specific thing, but something overall for me. I think that I fail at being rational sometimes, and I think that that's still something that I'm working on now. I definitely over the last like 2 years have acknowledged it and am trying to be a little bit more rational as opposed to like emotional. I definitely have a hard time checking my emotions at the door and like not letting things sit internally. I have a tendency to like overthink and get caught in my head. So I feel like I've definitely failed at being, rational at times. So that's something that I struggle with still. So I feel like my emotions take over completely too many times. Then I overthink, and it's like a whole thing and a cycle. And so, but we're all work in progress, so trying.
Have you ever thought of a business or invention?
I have. I feel like we're like getting to this point, but I think somebody or myself needs to invent cars that you can like program where you're going, and like you can just like sit back and not have to do the driving. It like will do it all for you. It would like, I know it's like super dependent on like robots and stuff, but like think about that. You could like program where you want it to go, right? It would cut down on like so many like car accidents, assuming that the robots at the helm
Know
will,
what
like,
they're doing.
know what they're doing. But like I feel like that would be amazing. Like you just type into the car where you want to go, you press go, and it like gets you there, and you just get to sit back and relax, right?
Yeah.
So many people are texting while they're driving. A lot of people, unfortunately drive if they're under the influence, and I think that this would like diminish all of that stuff. Just a thought.
I know you're a very organized person, but between your house, your desk, and your car, which one would you clean first?
My house, without question. I'm like neurotic about it. Like if you see my desk at the end of the day, it's a good sample of like I refuse to leave school if my desk is a mess. And it's more about like when I come in the next day, seeing that like sense of organization like is calming to me. So it's like the same thing in my house. Like I spend the most time at my house of the three places. So I would want my house to be the most clean and organized. Like when I go home, I want everything to be in a certain place so I don't have to think about it. So I think it would be my house first, my car second, and then my desk third.
What's one thing that you're curious about right now?
I'm super curious about the political climate of this country. Without sharing my personal views, I'm very interested to see where we're going as a nation, as a society. There's definitely been some interesting things that have happened over the past, 10 years or so that have made me question a lot. So I think I'm super curious about that. I'm curious about what show we're going to do next year here. That's stressing me out a little bit because we're not really sure what direction we're going. I'm curious, about a lot of different things. But I think the whole political thing is what makes me the most curious these days. Like, where are we going?
Yeah.
So.
in music and the plays, there are many different types of words. So what is your favorite word?
My favorite word, does it have to be music related?
No.
Okay, so my favorite word, and I just had this conversation with the chorale because I told them I was being interviewed, and I had told them that they should listen to this, and that one of the questions that you ask is about the favorite word, and they wanted to guess it, and they said that I don't say this word a lot, but I feel like I do. It's the word imagine. I feel like there's just, it just makes you think, like, imagine. I'll say it like sometimes in like a sarcastic sense, like, imagine you didn't, interview me on the day that you told me you were going to interview me. But it could also mean like so many other things. I remember like loving in New York City in Central Park, there's a place, it's in Strawberry Fields, and there's this big like mural on the ground, and the word imagine is right in the middle of it. And it just is like, it just speaks, it's so powerful. I think there's like so many different like angles you can go on the word imagine. And I like the way it sounds in Spanish, imagínate.
Cool. Do you know a lot of Spanish?
I mean, I took Spanish in high school for 4 years, and I did it in college afterwards. And I like never like stopped, so I would like every once in a while like throw in some Spanish words.
Just gotta refresh the mind.
Yeah, like talking to like the language department here, like I'll often like try to, throw in some Spanish words in my dialogue just to see if I still got it. So,
Thank you for being with me today.
thank you for having me. Thank you for asking me.
For all your listeners, I'll be back next week with another episode.